Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds. It's a sphere.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Thomas Ryman.
And we just watched
Sphere.
Spear. Oh, that's dumb.
You are the human contact team that was recommended in the Goodman Report. We have a biochemist to assess the physiology of the unknown life form. We have a mathematician, because that'll probably be our common language. And we have an astrophysicist to locate its place in the cosmos. Try to relax.
So you're saying that you have a fuselage from a spacecraft over a half a mile long that crashed into the ocean 300 years ago and it's completely intact?
That's right. And the kicker is, something's still running inside.
I hope every single one of you turned off the podcast because it's what we deserve for doing that.
Yeah, that was our finest moment.
It was a real piece of shit. I don't know why. Man, we should be embarrassed to call ourselves professionals.
It's all right, man. Whatever.
It's fine. It's all fine.
Look, we're talking Sphere.
Yeah, we are talking Sphere.
We're talking Sphere. Listen, big thanks to Burrito Mouth. That's our Patreon producer. Who has moved on from cube shapes and is now making us watch various other shapes. This one being 1998's Barry Levinson's Sphere.
Now, we were talking about this a little bit before the show. I have never forgotten that Barry Levinson directed Sphere, but I experience the same shock as if I had forgotten each time I remind myself.
It is very
Levinson
shocking.
Directed Sphere. Fucking Rain Man Sphere.
Yeah.
He took his Rain Man star and put him in Sphere.
We've both seen this.
I've seen Sphere a lot. I was a big old Crichton head in the 90s.
Yeah.
As a kid, I read all of his goddamn books. And
this is from the era where we were like Jurassic Park.
Yeah, we were adapting the fucking shit out of Michael Crichton.
Yeah.
Just all of his movies, just whatever. We get a shitty Timeline movie 2 years from after this, I think. No, it's a little bit more actually. But yeah.
But we got the Congo, and we
got Congo. We got Rising Sun, which was actually the same year as Jurassic Park.
Okay, we were doing the Stephen King thing.
Yeah.
But unlike, it just feels like there's a way lower success rate. Tom, do you want to guess how much of a failure this movie is?
I remember a little bit because I remember. It came out in like January or February of 1998. I was one of 13 people excited to see it.
Yeah.
Because this is one of my favorite Michael Crichton books, is Sphere.
Right.
But it was a real big piece of shit that nobody liked. So I imagine it probably lost, I don't know, $200 million?
The budget was 73 to 80 million.
Okay.
Box office was 73 million.
Okay, all right.
So it made its money back. Can you guess its Rotten Tomatoes rating?
Oh, probably in the 20s.
Ooh, 11%.
Oof, okay.
Yeah.
We're not being hyperbolic. This is a very bad film.
Okay, well, this is where I want to start talking about it.
Okay.
Because the movie is objectively a failure.
Yes. It did not succeed at what it was trying to do.
Yes. It is, I think, my favorite failure of a movie in that there's a lot in this movie that speaks to me. There's a lot in this movie that I actually like. I would actually say I like this movie, Tom. I like Sphere.
Uh-huh. No, I know you do. This is not a surprise to me. We've watched it together.
Yeah.
I think more than once.
And I guess watching it this time, I was trying to identify two things.
Okay.
Why do I like it?
Mm-hmm.
And why is it bad? Because it's bad. It's bad. It's a bad movie.
Well, Obviously, you will be a better person to answer the first question. I could maybe help with the second question.
Yeah, you certainly can. So let's talk about that.
Well, okay.
Wait, did we? Yeah, we think Burrito Mouth.
Did we think Burrito Mouth?
Yeah, we talked about the Shape movies.
Oh, right.
Burrito Mouth.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Burrito Mouth. Yeah, this is actually a movie I've seen quite a bit. I suspect that maybe the reason you like this movie is because in many ways, it's an interesting failure. There's things that I notice right off the bat. Part of the problem, as I mentioned, I'm a huge fan of the book Sphere. Part of the problem with adapting Sphere into a film is that it is an extremely internal story.
Yes.
But I mean, there's a lot of external things too, which is a bit. We'll get to that. You're already kind of starting off at a disadvantage in a way to present that in an interesting way, and there's some cool stuff in this movie. Like I noticed right away in the first scene where Dustin Hoffman's being flown out to this flotilla. This Navy flotilla around this crash site in the middle of the ocean. The camera work is very claustrophobic, and that's extremely intentional. The whole movie is.
I'd say it's a well-made movie, yeah.
Sure, for sure. It's got an incredible cast. It's Dustin Hoffman, Sharon Stone, Samuel L. Jackson, Peter Coyote, Liev Schreiber, Queen Latifah's even in there for a little bit.
Yep.
It's got
Huey Lewis.
Huey Lewis is the fucking helicopter pilot that flies Dustin Hoffman out in the middle of the ocean. The cast is wild. And, it's Barry Levinson. So you're like, this should... But, I mean, he also made toys. Oh, wait, was that Barry Sonnenfeld?
That was Sonnenfeld, I believe.
Okay.
That feels way more Barry Sonnenfeld. But, that actually is hitting on one of the realizations I had of why I really like this movie. It's a specific dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Is this era, Dustin Hoffman, in this era, Samuel L. Jackson... They should have done way more movies together. I fucking love them on screen. I love when he's telling them about the bogus report.
Mm-hmm.
All the scenes between them, I love it. I wish there's more of Samuel Jackson and Dustin Hoffman just like riffing. I don't know. There was just something very charismatic about that.
Yeah, no, they're good together. It's like this is like Outbreak era Dustin Hoffman and like Pulp Fiction, Dire with a Vengeance era Sam Jackson. Yeah, they should have done more shit together.
Yeah, it's fucking great. The dynamic
cast is
between
really
them.
good.
I would have loved a cop movie with those two.
Yes,
you know what I mean. Oh God, it would be so good.
We could trade one problematic actor for another and just swap him into the Negotiator instead of Spacey.
Yeah. Oh God, that would be so good. Remake The Negotiator with those two, and then Liev Schreiber, Sharon Stone. They're doing a great job.
The actors are good. This is a good cast. This is a great cast.
I think going to the problem is also why I like it, Tom, is one of my favorite movies, you probably already know, is 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
A movie that involves like a monolith, a shape, a mysterious shape.
And it's also a very claustrophobic film that is very internal.
Yep. Internal, about the unknown, the idea that an alien presence is more like this neutral presence, this mysterious neutral like power that changes you, that you don't fully understand. And so I think it invokes a lot of what I like about 2001 and kind of uses that against me to make me like it more.
It does wield it against you. Should we go over what this movie is about?
Probably, because I don't know how many people have seen Sphere.
I don't think this is a fucking 24-year-old movie at this point. I don't think a lot of people I don't think the kids are down with Sphere. I don't know that this book is flying off the shelves at the library.
Yeah. It's a group of various scientists, child geniuses that have now since grown up, are being flown into the ocean, and it starts with Dustin Hoffman, a psychiatrist who...
Psychologist,
sure.
I mean,
whatever.
He makes that distinction in one of the scenes.
He does. Psychologist who believes he's there because of an airplane crash. They tell him, no, it's a spaceship, and he assumes NASA.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, it's a spaceship. And they learn that he wrote this report during the Bush administration, not the war criminal one, the other older war criminal one.
He was one of many scientists who contributed to this report.
Yeah. And he learns, it's a report on what would we do if we, met aliens.
Mm-hmm.
And they're working off of this report. The reveal is that it's a bogus report in that Dustin Hoffman phoned it in. And so they're going by, and that was the first thing that was very unrealistic, is that the government would go off in any academic paper.
It was a report they commissioned. So
yeah,
that's
funny to me, where he's like, yeah, scientists should be the first, and then the government's like, yep, let's do that. It's like, no, they wouldn't do that.
I'm not that surprised by it, because it speaks to the bureaucratic nature of the government, where it's like,
right.
If they commissioned this old report, they commissioned a report on what to do with aliens. It's over a decade old at this point, and they're like, well, that's what we got, so that's what we're going to use.
Right.
So,
and so they have to go deep underwater because that's where the ship is. It's this big ship that's crashed, and it's under hundreds of feet of coral. Where when they do the math, it means it crashed like 200 years ago. And so, but it's still like there's something on in the ship they've detected. So they all have to go down there. It's very like The Abyss or 2001. They do these black screen titles.
An Alien, yeah.
Yeah.
There's black screen
and the Abyss
chapter
is
titles,
also,
yeah.
The Abyss is also very 2001, like clearly inspired by it. But so they go down to the bottom of the ocean. They very quickly get on this ship. It's basically the helicopter ride from Jurassic Park. Like they're taking this sub to the ship. There's an underwater habitat. They learn very quickly that the ship is actually an American ship, and they're like, "How could that fucking be?" It was crashed here 200 years ago. The reveal is that according to the logs on the ship, it went through an unknown event that clearly was a black hole. I don't know why they didn't know what that was, but whatever. So
there's a lot
back in time.
There's a lot of, and the movie preserves this as well. There's a lot of unknowns in Sphere. Yeah. And Crichton very specifically introduces a lot of ideas in the story and never really explains them, which can frustrate some people. But I think it probably, since you've already been talking about how much you enjoyed 2001, I think it probably appeals to someone like you. It also appeals to me. Part of what I like about science fiction that it explores alien encounters and shit like that is leaning into how fucking creepy it can be.
Yes, it's the creepy unknown. There's some stuff that I wish they clarified. There's a lot of speculation, and a lot of it's a creepy idea that is done in a stupid way. I'll get to that in a second, because the dates on the log say like it's abbreviated date, and all they know is for the year it's 43. And they hit this black hole. And then they find on the ship that there's this giant sphere. And it's very Michael Crichton, the way they talk about things like this, where like one of them says, I bet if you measured the sphere, it'd be perfectly spherical, I guess.
Yeah.
It's a perfect sphere. And wow, what a message that is. But they don't actually measure it, which bothered me, because then they're like, wow, perfect sphere. And then they move on, and I'm like, well, someone just said that. And they do a little bit of that where
that's just efficiency for a movie, I think.
I know. Samuel Jackson then concludes, and I really like this idea. Samuel Jackson, after they encounter the sphere, is immediately like weird and haunting. And he says, we're all going to die down here, you know. And Dustin Hoffman's like, why? And he's like, because that ship was from 2043. It's 50 years from now. That ship crashes. So why didn't they know about this? Because we know about it. So obviously we're going to go tell people. So that means we're going to die because we didn't tell anybody. And that really bothered me, because it was like, it could be from 3043. You just have the date 43. It could be from 2143.
Right. No, I think that's supposed to bother you.
Okay, yeah.
There's a lot
of... They
of...
just start making a lot of assumptions.
Yeah, and...
I would have liked that better if we knew the exact date, so that Samuel Jackson... Because they keep going by that rule, where they're like, we're not supposed to know about it. That goes through at the end. So I honestly, just don't abbreviate the date. Like, tell me it's 2043, then. because the whole movie assumes that that's what 43 is, and it's like, no, they could have known about it, and then this is like so far in the future that we forgot.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. I think the book plays around with it a little bit more than the movie does, but there's a lot of like, it becomes unclear, maybe it wasn't, because the idea, we still haven't really explained what it is. The sphere gives you powers. It gives you the ability to manifest your thoughts.
Which we don't know right away.
So
it's
like,
just this mysterious sphere. They start encountering things like sea monsters, like a giant squid, which
that
they
we never fucking see.
That's my favorite part, though. It's so I really love that the squid you never see it. It's terrifying.
You should have seen some of it, I think. You never really see it in the story either. There's a scene where Liev Schreiber's character dies a little bit different in the story. A tentacle comes in and grabs him and smashes him against the bulkhead, and he dies.
Oh, interesting.
But that's all we ever really see of the squid.
Yeah, I liked that the squid was just a blip on the radar, and it was more terrifying. It's the Jaws rule.
Yeah.
Like, not seeing it made it scarier to me throughout.
Yeah, I don't think they did enough with that to justify not showing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean.
It ultimately was, I remember seeing it, and every time I watch it now, ultimately it's disappointing because, on principle or the general idea, I agree with you. Yeah, it is scarier to create the presence of the squid than it is to have like some big CGI monster or something, which is what it would have been in 1998.
Well, that's, yeah.
And thematically, it works better for like this creepiness. Like all of the shots are very claustrophobic. It's on paper that is the correct idea, but I don't think it's executed well enough to justify it. So you just kind of have a bunch of people in the audience with blue balls who wanted to see a squid.
That's the thing. No, I think you nailed it. Not necessarily for the squid. The overall problem with the movie is the quote, ultimately it's disappointing. Because here's the thing, like you said, it's very internal. So the reveal is that they're all manifesting it. Mm-hmm. There is no alien. That's the whole thing. They're working up to, we're going to find this alien.
The power itself, we never know what the sphere is.
The sphere is alien.
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is that there's no literal alien. It's an American ship. It's
but maybe it isn't, and that's an idea that gets introduced in the story. It's because they can change they can change reality around them.
Right.
So like, and they, as the story progresses, and in the film, as the film progresses, we realize that. Like Sam Jackson's the first person to enter the sphere and he gets the power, but we don't really know that that's what it means at that point. We just know that he was able to enter the sphere and then he's acting all weird afterwards. But then we find out that Sharon Stone and Dustin Hoffman have both also entered the sphere and Dustin Hoffman just doesn't remember it.
Yeah, I love the realization where they're all like, damn, we all went in the sphere.
Yeah, they all did. So like they're seeing, as they're exploring the spaceship, in the story, they're seeing different versions of the spaceship. So the story does a lot more to play with the idea of just continually throwing unknown variables into it. It's like, well, maybe it isn't really an American ship. So there's a lot of... The whole idea of spheres is just these piles of mysterious unanswered questions. And the ultimate decision is that perhaps it's better not to know.
Yes, at the end they just choose to forget because they're like, we're not ready for this.
Yeah.
I love that idea where they're like, what if it falls into the wrong hands? And Dustin Hoffman's like, we're the wrong hands.
We are the wrong hands.
We're three of the smartest people on this planet, and we ruined ourselves with this power.
Yeah.
We used it to manifest every fucking terrible idea.
Well, and like when the squid shows up and it kills Liev and Peter Coyote, isn't that the scene where Sam Jackson's asleep?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's the idea. It's like we can be as vigilant as we want, but the second we fall asleep and start dreaming,
right?
It's
and that's that. The movie does this thing where they make you think Samuel Jackson is making it all happen. Meanwhile, there's an alien named Jerry that's communicating with them, and it's very creepy because the alien seems very childlike, and simplistic. And then the reveal is, oh no, it's Harry, not Jerry. Harry is Samuel Jackson's character. And so it pins it all on, Samuel Jackson's doing this with his mind. And then the realization is, oh no, we all are.
We are all doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. And because Samuel Jackson's the only one who's explicitly like, yes, he went into the sphere at the very beginning. And this is where I think why the movie lost people.
I was going to say, to pause real quick, everything we're saying sounds good. It sounds like a good movie.
Yes. Well, here's the thing. They keep saying, what's inside the sphere? I want to look inside the sphere. I got to get inside that sphere. And so I want to remind people something, that 2001 A Space Odyssey flopped. That's also a flop. The difference is that 2001 was first of its kind. It's a beautiful film.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a reason to become a classic. This has less of the visual and directing aspects. I mean, it's well done, but you know what I mean, where it's of its time of the 90s.
Yeah.
And it doesn't transcend that. But both movies, I think, flopped because 2001 blue balls the audience too. It's so abstract, and they keep doing this question like, what is this monolith? We got to go find this monolith. We're going to Jupiter to find this other monolith. We're going to get answers, and then the answer is like, it's kind of abstract and intangible. That's the problem ultimately, is that there's a part where finally Samuel Jackson just casually says like, there's nothing in the sphere, you know that, to like Sharon Stone. And that's the thing, is you compare it to a film like, I don't know, The Abyss, a movie that's good, but it's not like this artistic powerhouse, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Or Mission to Mars with Gary Sinise. Those are movies that knew that they couldn't. Yeah, but those movies knew one thing about themselves: they couldn't get away with what 2001 did. They had to, at the end, satisfy those blue balls. They had to, the movie had to come.
Yeah,
Tom.
It had to come. It had to have release. You can't just edge the entire time.
And so they show they're like, here's the aliens. Here's the big mysterious aliens. Here's what they look like. Here's what they want. It's very
I like
literal.
The additional wrinkle in Abyss. I like how the Abyss handles it, where it shows you the aliens, but there's still a level of mystery where we don't. Yeah, we see them. We still don't really understand them.
No, but I guess this might have been in the extended version. They just do a PowerPoint presentation.
That's in the extended version.
Yeah.
they don't do that in the theatrical version.
Yeah. Where they're just like, here's what our deal is. Here's what we want. Here's what we're worried about. We saw that you have nukes. That worries us. So like, that's what Sphere doesn't do, which I think is better. I think that's actually a cooler way to show aliens.
Yeah.
Because aliens, this introduces that idea, and I assume Crichton got really into it in the book, is that aliens and us, if we were to communicate with aliens, it wouldn't be like Close Encounters. It would be like a weird dream. There would be this like separation between us that we just simply couldn't get past.
Yes, and that was the entire premise that Crichton began with when he started this story. Like I mentioned at the top of the podcast, it's one of my favorite books, so I've read a lot about it in addition to having read it. And I've read a couple of interviews with him about it, or just things he wrote about it. And the premise he started with is, what if we found aliens, but it was like a disappointment? Like, what if it was kind of shitty? It was like so not what we expect. Because that is what it would be.
Well, yeah, so this sphere is the equivalent of, like, say you are an alien on Mars and you run into the rover. It's that. It's our first encounter with aliens would be like not an alien, but probably something a drone sent to look. And there's this idea that
it's the cavemen finding the monolith.
Exactly. And the monolith is the perfect thing for that too, because it looks like something we're sort of familiar with, but it seems to have something, an intelligence behind it that we can't quite understand, and a power that feels like magic, which is how in Star Trek they often play that game where they're like, oh, to you this seems like magic, but to us it's just technology.
It's the Isaac Asimov. That's Asimov, right? Any sufficiently advanced technology seems like magic.
Yeah, and so they do a good job in this and 2001, mostly 2001, at showing that, and they never really say it, and I appreciate that, which is that this sphere is disruptive, it's confusing, it's surreal, and it seems also just like an empty sphere, and so it's like they can't understand it.
It's the idea of again, we're talking about all these ideas. Like, there's a lot of good ideas in Sphere, but it's like the idea is it's also that it's like you mentioned, it's this neutral force. So it not only is it all these things that we're talking about, like it's alien, so it's vaguely familiar, but not. We don't understand it. We can't intuit its purpose. It's also neutral. It's like new technologies. Like technology is you always hear like tech bros argue technology is neutral. It just is what you do with it. So it's like the Sphere has all of those things. Like, it's disruptive, it's scary, but it's just what these people are bringing to the table. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And ultimately, it's by design anticlimactic.
Yes.
And that's the problem.
That's part of the problem. Yeah.
I bet audiences would have been way more satisfied if a dumb alien crawled out of the Sphere. But that would have been dumb.
That would have been we would not be doing this podcast right now, probably. If an alien crawled out. It's because that would be, I don't know. It's the reason why I've rewatched this movie and not Mission to Mars, which is very similar, but ultimately a much worse film.
Yeah.
It's also directed by it's Brian De Palma, right? So it's also
De Palma,
a director where you're like, really?
Yeah, very well made, bad film.
Yeah. So I think this movie's problem is that all of its ideas and its concepts are really good, and its themes are really good, because it's just all of that stuff is just taken directly from the book. And Crichton was a lot of things, but he was a very good science fiction writer. So all of these ideas are there. It's just, when you execute a story, even when you have a great cast that has good chemistry with each other, it's boring. This is a dull movie, and that's its ultimately its biggest problem. I think why it doesn't work is that it's dull.
I would say there's the overall gloss of it being dull, but also, and the cast is great. I do think they needed like a Malcolm. They don't have a Malcolm. They don't have
Harry's kind of supposed to be their Malcolm, but he's
the problem is they all kind of are bitter, and they're all kind of angry at each other.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yes, but it creates a situation like, honestly, the army guy, Peter Coyote, that should have been a very charismatic guy, like, because he's the one person who has no like emotional stakes in that circle. Like, they needed a little more levity, but also I noticed is that the moment to moment stuff, the beat by beat points, some of them are very dumb.
Yeah.
Again, I was bothered by the 2043 thing, or just the 43 thing, but there's stuff like the part where they're getting attacked by the giant squid and they have to electrocute the habitat. And they're like, it's going to send this electric shock, but it's going to start a fire. And the thing is, like, they're clearly about to get crushed by the squid. So Dustin Hoffman goes to do the thing, and for like no reason, Sharon Stone is like, don't do it, you can't. And it's like, surely you know that giant squid is worse than fire, right? Like, stuff like that, where there was like little moments of conflict, little dumb things. The fact that they have to reset the sub every 12 hours, stuff like that, where it's like, that's dumb. Like, what if one of them's really injured and can't get to the sub in time? Like, they inject little moments of conflict that are kind of dumb.
Yeah,
in my opinion, that's one of the big problems, is that, like, some of the characters, like, for example, there's the scene where Samuel Jackson's clearly, like, after he goes in the sphere, he's clearly like haunted and weird and like sleeping all the time and is emotionally detached. And Dustin Hoffman like goes to Sharon Stone and is like, you know, he's fucked up. We can't trust him. We can't deal with him. And then like they try to give it motivation, but it still doesn't work. Sharon Stone, he goes to reset the sub, which again I think is also dumb. He gets confused. And Samuel Jackson, he had Sharon Stone watch him on the TVs, and now it's Samuel Jackson doing it instead. And he comes in and he's like, what the fuck happened? And Sharon Stone is like, well, he told me he'd take over. And like Dustin Hoffman just doesn't believe her and like starts siding with Samuel Jackson. and is like, why would he do that? Why would he do any of what you're saying? Why would he lie to Sharon Stone? It's like, you just finished saying there's something wrong with him.
Yeah.
Like, it's stuff like that where it's like the alliances like shift for no reason to create conflict.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that stuff. A lot of little like, oh yeah, why can they even go outside randomly? Like he's a psychologist. Like, he doesn't know how to dive. They took 8 hours of training. It's weird that they just keep casually leaving.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of stupid shit that
I think the moment, the scene to scene conflicts are, they're not believable. Like, they force a lot. Like, they get real hostile towards Peter Coyote, which is like partially understandable, but it's also like he's not steering the squid, guys. Like,
right.
He is also in this habitat with you.
Yeah.
You're right. And
I'm sure the book probably had more time to explain that stuff, but it feels very rushed, and it feels like
it doesn't feel authentic. It feels it feels a lot of the interpersonal conflicts feel forced, which is bad.
Yeah,
for a movie like this.
It's you get a group of people together who don't seem to like each other that much.
Yes,
and
there's
then
a lot of there's competition because they're all relatively young scientists. There's a lot of past gripes because I think they used to be married, right? They at least used to date.
There's this whole thing where he was her therapist, and it was very inappropriate.
Yes.
So like no one is good. No one's coming from a good place.
Well, they have beef. Everybody has beef.
And I get why they do that, because then the sphere manifests this stuff.
Yeah.
But it doesn't as much in Paranoia. And that's the problem, is that it's just like giant squid and snakes. So like when they start turning on each other, it doesn't feel motivated, except for, being suspicious of Samuel L. because he's being weird. It just doesn't feel quite motivated enough.
They don't handle the reveal that they've all been in the sphere well enough.
Yeah,
because you start with the tension obviously coming from Harry, like you're saying. It's like, well, he's the one that went in the sphere. Clearly, he's in control. And then the realization's like, oh, we've all been in. I can't trust any of you. Like, they don't handle that very well, and they force these. Like, I get the intention of it is related to what he says at the end, where it's like, we are the wrong hands. We're the smartest people on the planet. We still almost killed each other. And so it's showing that even like the quote unquote smartest people on the planet still have the same petty, stupid bullshit that they get mad at each other for. So it's like they're not any safer. But it's just not handled very well.
No, the conflict, the best version is when Sharon Stone just turns on the bombs. She goes outside and like arms the bombs that are there.
Yeah.
And I still am not sure why she did that. And then later the bombs arm because she mentally makes it happen, which to me feels like, can't you mentally unmake it? But whatever. I guess they don't have that kind of control. But it's like, then they have this ticking clock, and it's like, it feels like one of your characters just went outside and did that for no reason, just to have the ticking clock.
Yeah.
And then you top that off with the fact that you have this more like surreal idea of like, no aliens, there's nothing in the sphere. It just did this to us. We choose to forget. And then the sphere blasts off into space, and it's like, okay, so this was all for nothing?
It's a very silly image, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, this is all for nothing, I guess. Like, it was a bunch of people came down, yelled at each other, and then blew up the thing and left.
Let me tell you how the book ends, because it's way better.
Okay.
There's none of that, obviously. It's the last scene is the conversation between the three of them agreeing to forget about the sphere. So we don't see a dramatic sphere blasting off. As far as we know, the sphere is still at the bottom of the ocean in that ship.
Right.
But it is heavily implied that Sharon Stone's character did not forget.
Nice. I wondered that too. I was like, I bet one of them didn't forget.
That in the story, yeah. It's a little more sinister in the story, which I appreciated.
Yeah, I get that. It's like, it's like, no, I'm going to be a superhero. God damn it.
Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah.
Why would I ever give this power up? Yeah.
Yeah. Probably less superhero, more like a Stephen King character. But
well,
yes.
it plays into like she constantly, and it's more in the book, but like they do preserve in the movie her relationship with Dustin Hoffman began in an inappropriate place that was Dustin Hoffman abusing an authority position, abusing a power position.
Right.
So a lot of her character is like her conflict is built around the idea of how she's a woman in STEM. So already it's like, I can't get anyone to take me seriously.
Right.
And then she constantly feels overlooked, pushed aside, not taken seriously. So when she gets the sphere of power, it's like all that coming out.
Yeah. Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a better ending. They don't blow up. They don't blow it up. They just they just leave?
I don't remember. The station, the habitat is destroyed, but I think the sphere is still down there, buried in.
Oh, okay.
It definitely doesn't take off back to the heavens like it does.
Yeah,
like pew!
It's just like, I'm out of here. I got my data. I'm gonna go tell the aliens you guys are fucked up.
Yeah.
Don't come here.
I'm gonna go tell the Vulcans to skip this planet.
Yeah. Yeah, so it is, again, it's a bad movie. I feel like after this watch, I've really like gained a healthy relationship with this movie.
Okay.
Where I'm like, I know why I like it.
Yeah.
Or rather, I know why it speaks to me. I like the mysterious, you never see the squid. I like the mysterious, you never see aliens. I like that it's this intangible idea.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you get all that shit together, and then you have a movie that just, has fundamental issues with it. Of course it's going to piss everybody off.
It's boring and anticlimactic.
Right. And
you can argue that it's anticlimactic by design, but it doesn't have to be boring.
Right.
Like,
starting from the concept, what if we met aliens and it wasn't that great?
Yeah, right.
Like, that's nobody wants that story unless you really work at it.
You got to be really good at it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely that feeling of it's I got this time around, I got reflections of them being like, we're trying to make this Jurassic Park. Like them seeing the ship for the first time. The music swells and it's like, yeah, it's Jurassic Park, and it's like, yeah, but it isn't. And I think part of that is visually, it's hard to make an iconic visual movie that's in like the crushing depths of the ocean, and you can't ever see anything that well. It looks realistic.
The Abyss.
Well, I would say the Abyss does it.
Yeah.
But even the Abyss, I think, is more of something.
But at what cost?
I also think the general public, no one cares about the Abyss.
Nobody cares about the Abyss. I know it's sad, but it's true
because it's still like, it's mostly just darkness. It's right there in the name. Whereas Jurassic Park, it's just easier to digest. It's dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And it has that same issue where it's like, I don't really know what the ship ever looked like by design.
Yeah.
And I like that. But as a movie that they're trying to, they're clearly made this being like, we're going to make the next Jurassic Park. We're going to make another big blockbuster. And it's like, this is kind of like a very specific genre film.
Yeah.
This is not a movie that you spend a huge budget on. And that's, I think, part of the issue.
Yeah.
Because they just thought, oh yeah, Michael Crichton, that's blockbuster material.
Yeah,
it's
Michael.
Like, is it though?
We'll assemble all the right people. Yeah, we'll get Michael Crichton. We'll get a great cast. We'll get an accomplished, acclaimed director. It's like everything's going to fall into place. It's like, well, no, it won't.
Yeah,
you have to actually do the work to make it fit together.
Right, and we hadn't realized yet that like Crichton kind of had only the one blockbuster idea. All the others, they don't really make for blockbusters. That isn't to say they're bad. It's just that Jurassic Park was like, yeah, first of all, you hand that to Spielberg.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that makes that, work really well. And second, it's fucking dinosaurs. Nothing else really does that.
Yeah.
For Michael Crichton.
No, his stuff is all like the Terminal Man is this weird Frankenstein story. The Andromeda Strain's about a virus timeline, I guess, but like That's,
Westworld, technically, because they made a show out of it.
Yeah.
But even that, it's like, they had to like change things. Like his version of Westworld, we all know what happened there. That didn't go well. Just I'm looking at the stuff that he has credits for, like fucking Runaway. It's just like, Michael Crichton, man. He Jurassic Park and Twister are like his, in terms of a writer, his most accessible things.
Yeah. The rest of it's kind of dense. And Congo's a pretty straightforward adventure story. He's clearly just riffing on King Solomon's mines, but everything else is...
and as much as we love Congo, that wasn't a successful film. It's a quite dumb film.
It is an unforgettable film that I have watched probably 100 times.
Yes, but not because it, like, we all know why we watch Congo.
I watch Congo because I love Congo. I understand that it's not a good movie.
Yeah, I love seeing fucking Laura Linney lays killer monkeys in half.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
While saying an Arnold Schwarzenegger line.
Yeah. It's a very special movie.
Yeah.
It's a unique, one-of-a-kind film. But, like, we all know what Congo is. It's not it's not traditionally, I wouldn't call it a good movie.
Also, I think it's directed by Frank Marshall, so it's like another...
It sure is.
Fucking surprising-ass director.
Again, because I remember watching Bruce Campbell speak, and he talked about Congo because he's in it. And he was talking about why be in Congo, why bet on Congo. And he's like, it's a Frank Marshall film based off a Michael Crichton novel with Tim Curry and Laura Linney and Ernie Hudson and all these people. Like, no, of course they thought, like, oh, this is gonna kill it.
Of course, it's an obvious pick.
Yeah, because again, they hadn't realized Michael Crichton. It's Jurassic Park was a fluke. It's a fluke, which isn't to say he's bad. It's just that it was a fluke. He's not the special ingredient.
And also, I want to say Congo was a big hit.
Really?
Yes.
That's hilarious.
It's not.
I remember seeing it.
It's not as successful as a film, but I mean, it. I'm looking at the numbers right now. It grossed 152 million on a budget of 50 million.
Oh yeah, we love Congo.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sphere. We're talking about Sphere.
Yeah, we're talking about Sphere.
Congo is one where it's like, I understand why everybody loves Congo. Sphere, I get why everybody hates Sphere, but I still enjoy it. It's everything we just said. Dreadfully boring, filled with bizarre conflicts, unsatisfying in the end, and dark. It's just dark.
Yeah.
Visually dark.
Yep.
And gloomy. And I don't know. I really like Sphere.
It's mean. It's like a mean-spirited film.
Yeah, everybody's kind of a shit.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about Liev Schreiber, which I love me some Liev Schreiber. It feels weird that he's in this.
This is it's Schreiber, by the way. It's a B.
Schreiber.
Yeah. I love mid to late 90s Liev Schreiber because he was, he's Cotton Weary and Scream. He's one of the random henchmen in Ransom.
That's what I mean.
He's just
it's
popping
like,
up and shit.
Right. It feels like he's not famous enough.
No, he's like kind of the X factor here. Like Peter Coyote is famous, but he was never like a huge star. The reason he's in this movie is because he played Keys in E.T.
Right, and also he's sort of a secondary character.
Yeah, he's not a main character. Yeah,
Liev, it's like he's like supposed to be like the Malcolm.
He's one of the Harry, I think, is more than Malcolm, but like
but he's one of the primary characters. He needs to have charisma, so he must have auditioned really well.
Well, he's Liev Schreiber, yeah, of course he did. But like,
he is good.
It is funny that you have these three, and then 1998 Liev Schreiber. It's like, man, he's he's the odd man out here for sure.
It's weird. Fucking Ray Donovan hanging out with
hell
them. Yeah. But again, bless his heart. I mean, I like him.
Yeah.
He's good. He's a good actor, so it works.
Yeah, again, the cast of this movie is great.
Yeah, it's killer.
It's an awesome
Queen Latifah
cast.
doing great.
Queen Latifah.
Wasn't there, I heard like a rumor that she was supposed to do a song with Huey Lewis?
Yes.
Yeah, that is hilarious.
I believe
that they
that's
would
why
ever consider like a Sphere-themed song.
it's the 90s, man. It's part of the.
But
It was just
for a movie like imagine Jurassic Park ending with a Jurassic Park rap. You know,
mean,
like it's like
if
not
they,
the time.
If they thought, I don't know. I think it's, I don't know. It used to be part of the marketing checklist that movies would do. It's like we need to have for like mid-budget movies, especially. They were like, we got to have a music video on heavy rotation to get the kids out to see it. Yeah.
It's just the least appropriate movie,
right.
because
It's such clearly a bad instinct, but I understand why they would make this plan in the mid-90s.
Yeah, and the fact that they didn't go through with it is like, okay, yeah, you figured it out.
They also realized it was a bad idea.
Yeah, this isn't Deep Blue Sea, for fuck's sake.
No.
Yeah, this doesn't end with a Huey Lewis Queen Latifah song. That said, I would give almost anything to hear that song.
That would be the first thing I manifested after I exited the Sphere, would be this song.
Yes, about Sphere.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Have Huey Lewis and Queen Latifah do a duet about Sphere.
Oh my God, I want it so bad.
Yes!
I want it right now.
Yes!
Oh, it's unfair that we don't get it.
It really is. It's a shame.
Yeah.
It's a goddamn shame.
Mm-hmm. Oh, all right. That's all I have to say about Sphere.
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. Well, Burrito Mouth, thank you so much.
Woo!
Many loves your way for letting me watch Sphere for the 100th time and talk about it. Good stuff. Great time. This was through our Patreon, patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. If you go on there, you can find exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder's a Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama. Those are all for $5 a month. You get every single one of those, all the podcasts. There's other tiers there too, so just go check it out. To fucking look around.
Yeah, we have a $10 tier where we watch movies with our patrons every Friday.
Yeah, I think we tried to watch Sphere, did we?
We have watched Sphere. We've watched Sphere before. Yeah, we watched the Untouchables last night.
Because it's fucking, again, it's boring movie, so we did watch The Untouchables last night.
We also have a store. Head on over to gamefullyunemployed.com where you'll find a link to our Teespring store where you can get t-shirts, stickers, posters, mugs, all kinds of things. Check that out.
You'll love it.
Yeah.
Like you love Sphere.
Mm-hmm. It's exactly the same level of passion and intensity that you love Sphere.
That's my manifestation. I would make everybody love Sphere.
That would be the world would be slightly better.
Yeah, the Universal would have this Sphere ride where it's just like a dark ride, but like there's nothing in it, and then you just leave, and you're like, well, that was pointless.
It would be like Space Mountain if there were no starlights and it just went in a straight line, and then you just it got out.
And it's just blasting Dustin Hoffman screaming that there's snakes on him in your ear.
Total blackness. It's not moving particularly fast.
No,
it's just
Dustin Hoffman screaming.
Yep. Then you get off the ride, and that's Sphere. That you have experienced Sphere.
Experience.
Experience. That's right. The Sphere experience.
Oh God damn it! I want Sphere powers.
Yes. Obviously. Yeah. Obviously.
I do only good.
Yeah. I think that I would exit the Sphere and the entire universe would have about 10 seconds left. I think I would fuck that up.
A weird 10 seconds.
Yeah, I would fuck that up immediately. And with gusto.